think it's time. So, hi, my name is Wieremjewicz, and I'm the product manager at Percona, working on, among the things, PostgreSQL. And this here is going to be a presentation of the roadmap for Percona software for PostgreSQL. And later on, I will particularly explain why I use Percona software rather than saying only Percona distribution. So, a quick disclaimer about this presentation. As you most likely have been to many roadmap presentations in your life, this may be like the ones you know or may not. First of all, I just want to make sure that you know that whatever I present here are just current representations of whatever we are planning. It doesn't necessarily have to be what happens. So some of the things we are going to see today are our plans, are the questions we are facing, are things about which we are thinking. But at the same time, this presentation is a means for me to get potentially feedback from you here and from other people who will see that, as I'm particularly in my job, I'm looking for feedback. Are the things we are thinking about the things you, as our users and customers, are looking for? So this presentation, hopefully, is going to not only be beneficial to you guys, but selfishly, I will say, it will be beneficial for Percona and for me by learning what you think about what we do. So to quickly recap on the presentation from Anne, where she presented our mission, I wanted to only point out that not only we believe an open world is a better word, but the fact that we really want to open up our users and customers and anybody out there to be able to freely innovate and start without the boundaries that are introduced by proprietary software. And we exist here to push the boundaries of what is possible with open source, to accelerate how people innovate across the world and everywhere. And we are all about open source, and that does not only include code. In this presentation, I'm hoping to achieve, at least to some degree, that the decisions and this design of what we do is also open, so that you as a community can actually contribute to what we do. You can be a part of this decision-making process. So this is kind of something I find unique. And to do this, we need data, feedback, and dialogue from you, with you guys, with our community of users. And to let you see what we think or how we feel, how we think about our software and databases, we see three core building blocks of databases, which are security. So however we are looking at security, we are thinking about whether the data is stored securely and whether there is everything in place to make sure that access to data is protected. We are looking at performance. So even the most secure database is not going to be usable if it's not performant, if it's just not working as fast as needed. And obviously, databases need to be available. So data that they serve needs to be available. All those three building blocks are, well, I use the word core, and that means that there's more. So there are other layers that also build the database experience of our users, and we recognize this. And these building blocks are basically being able to see the observability, the monitoring data, being able to control how our users are interacting with our data, with our databases. It is also being able to deploy and use the databases. So basically, all the deployment and day zero operations. It is how our developers or other users are accessing and connecting to the database. How can they use it? It is also automation. So how do we automate what Peter was talking about? So day two operations as well. And obviously, this is also what we've heard about platforms. So is it platform applicable? All these are addressing different personas, different users. Obviously, this is some manifestations of how we see it. But different users have different access vectors and look at the, let's say, databases from different angles. And we address that with different pieces of our software. And this is why I didn't actually particularly say that this is a roadmap for Percona distribution, because we are actually going to also touch, for example, on operators or PMM. These pieces of software that we also deliver to our community, so that all the roles that we just seen before are addressed, and everybody can use the software and innovate freely, so that basically you have the whole package rather than only one piece of software. So we are aiming, and pardon the users coming from smaller, let's say, organizations, but I've been taught in my, let's say, I think university, that you should always plan for the bigger scale. So in this regard, we're looking at an enterprise. So you are, this is usually the goal of every company, to grow, and at some point to reach this level. We want you to be able to scale and innovate with us to reach that level as well. So a scope for today. I built a timeline, starting with the first, I don't know if you knew, this is the first state in America that legalized recreational use of marijuana. So that happened in 2012. Last time the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl was in 2016. In 2019, in August, we have started with the distribution for PostgreSQL. Soon after COVID happened. And we are starting with the orange arrow. So basically, starting with Percona Live 2022 and recapping what happened since then. So just to make sure that we see the value of what has been created. And we are going to think what's going to be further after Percona Live 2023. So after today. So a quick poll of hands. How many of you are using PostgreSQL? So we have some people who are not using PostgreSQL. And how many of you are using our distribution, Percona distribution for PostgreSQL? Okay. So there is not a big crowd in here, so hopefully I will get some feedback as well from people who will watch the recording. Please reach out to me. I'm looking for this information. This last slide is something we're going to go back to later on. As this sort of question actually points out to a problem, and here again I have to be at least a bit egocentric, to my problem. I am looking for information whether you are using, how you're using, and this is something that is required for proper decision making and proper new features coming your way. So what happened since Percona Live 2022? So again, a question to the crowd. Are you using PG Pool too in your line of work? So if you are not, you're sure going to find out, if you don't know, that we have included it in our distribution. And we have already been able and been helping you guys with high availability based on Patroni. So we already have reference architectures that allow you to use PostgreSQL in a high availability setup with disaster recovery. But actually PG Pool represents another way of potentially doing that, and we are going to address that as well in reference architectures updates very soon. But it also allows a lot of other benefits. So starting with connection pooling through load balancing, so things that it's most known about, but also replication and query caching, which are things that have been added. So actually the name of PG Pool is not representative of the full scope of benefits it brings. So I wanted to make sure that you guys, our listeners and people in the room here know the whole value of PG Pool.
I have a pointed question.
Yeah?
Actually, just concluding that the release notes of PostgreSQL 16 just
Yeah.
draft is coming out. So the load balancing and connection pooling somehow
Yeah.
is now built in libpq. In PostgreSQL 16.
In 16.
And 16. So
Yep.
16 is out. Beta is just coming.
Yes.
So we have to be very careful when we are adding PG pool because inbuilt capabilities are coming.
Of course, and this is why we have not yet released the reference architecture, because we are waiting for the final version to actually be able to address the changes that are coming. So we are. Yes, and we are aware. So this is the state right now. The reference architecture we provide does not yet include PG pool because we are waiting on the increment that comes our way. But that's a very fair point, and have that in mind in your plans. And we will address that in the document soon. So also an important increment that happened since last Percona is we actually we already had query analytics possible back then with PMM, but right now we made them better. We made them more accurate and better for having better performance and definitely better looking histograms. So for your control kind of element from the previous slides, this is an increment we already did. So we have seen the rise of Kubernetes, and we have heard Peter mention the data on Kubernetes community out there working for to achieve potentially a better usability of databases on Kubernetes, so stateful workloads. So we have invested quite a lot of time into developing a new operator for PostgreSQL. We see that there is a big competition, let's say, a lot of other operators available, and our plan is to work and improve that even further. Right now, it already allows you to standardize the deployment as and basically expand your PostgreSQL usage. It is definitely easier to use with our other operators and other operators out there, and it provides capabilities for editing backup configuration on the flight, for addressing complex topologies, or for extending through the use of sidecars if that is what you need. And these are the benefits for you, though there is a big benefit for us as well, as the speed of development and ease of maintenance have increased dramatically with this new operator. So be sure to check it out. It's not GA yet, and as you will see soon, we are working hard on hardening and making it GA. Clicker. Oh, sorry. Okay, all right, now it works. So another thing we've been working on is expanding our support to other extensions for PostgreSQL. And is anybody in the room already an active user of geospatial data in their organization at all? I don't see a lot of hands raised, but we have found out that there are a lot of users are looking for geospatial data capabilities, and we have found out that PostGIS is the best way to approach that in PostgreSQL. So in very early after Percona Live 2023, I'm happy to announce that we are going to have full support for PostGIS with our distribution available to all our existing customers at no extra cost. Is basically the expanded offer of our support. So this was a short recap of what we have already introduced in our distribution, and and how are we working on that. So what are our plans? What are we thinking about? What's coming? So I've always been told that data is the new gold. Sometimes I've been told that actually that doesn't reflect that the need as oil is what makes the world work, not gold. Gold is just a currency. How I see it, it's the new uranium. It does really help us move further, but it's very, let's say, unsafe if not dealt with, without the extra caution or security. So about the security, this is not exactly data, but how organizations see operators. So going back to the data on Kubernetes report from 2022, the 2023 I think didn't yet come out, and I highly recommend the report to anybody in IT industry, as this is a source of really interesting data. We see that organizations see security as the most important factor when they choose an operator. When we look at the regulatory requirements around there, you see that GDPR suggests that data is encrypted. You see that, well, a strong suggestion from CCPA and LGPD that if you do not encrypt data and it leaks, you're in trouble. If you do encrypt it, well, you're covered. You see HIPAA and PCI DSS actually really pushing on encryption, and there are standards that describe how to best deal with it, what are the best practices for data security and for encryption. And when Peter, our founder, recently asked on Twitter whether PostgreSQL needs transparent data encryption, basically whether full disencryption is enough, we have found out that, well, most users see that, well, TDE is needed. There's actually a long discussion about that fact. But like to me, when you look at especially at the standards, there is no either or. You can, in theory, introduce both as well. Quickly looking at what our, well, I wouldn't say competition, but other database technologies do. This is out of DB engines, the top 5 DB engines right now. You have Oracle providing table space level and column level data encryption. You have MySQL with table space level. And MS SQL Server as well with the table space level, and obviously Mongo with cluster level. Yet PostgreSQL right now only has column level with PG crypto, and that's not regarded as enough. Yeah?
I don't know if you've read my own Slack comment this morning, but
No, yeah.
I was talking to Bruce. He's doing coding right now for transparent encryption.
Yes, we will think later on. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I have been told Bruce is the person for me to reach out later on.
Yeah, we can have a whole conversation about what's really thrown us off is external requirements on this feature versus actual value of the feature. That disconnect is what's caused.
Yeah.
And hopefully over the next year we can work through that issue. As a community, we need to talk about that.
And I do see a lot of limitations that are out there for the solutions existing. That for me, as a person, well, I'm new to Percona, less than a year. I'm not new to databases, but I'm not new to the, product management. And I just look at this, and from the product management level, from the user level, not looking into the hydraulics, let's say, these are not justified. I'm sorry. Like, I would not expect that from an enterprise level database. I'm not saying that these don't have those limitations. I'm saying I don't expect that. And very often we know too much and we say this is impossible. Like, let's not think about what is possible. Let's think what's needed. Yeah. And what's needed right now for PostgreSQL as the leading open source database out there is to be able to address the fact that community wants the TDE. There is as far as I understand, the discussion started around 2010. The first patch was introduced in 2016. 2018 and 2019 saw an increment into the contributions. And yet we have 2023, 13 years after, and still community didn't get what they asked for. Well, unless they go for proprietary software or they do something themselves, it's not there. So the scope of what we are thinking about is we're not definitely thinking about data in transit. It's already solved. We're not thinking about data in use. Well, shared buffer and memory is something that is definitely out of scope for us. We're looking at KMS management, and we're looking at data encryption together with backup and wall. We have not yet decided. This is something we are looking at. What level should it be? Definitely flexibility for the user is something that we have in mind, and definitely ease of use for the user is something we have in mind. Though I am very strong advocate of going small steps. So small value that creates value for the community is most likely something we will at first take a look at. So the question we are facing right now is when we go with our solution, do we go with an extension or do we go with the fork? And extension has a lot of pros. It's way easy to adopt. Any PostgreSQL database compliant user in theory can use it, and it is distribution agnostic, and it's easier to build with community. Hopefully, it can actually build a community around it. And here selfishly me saying, allowing us to spend less on that. As Percona, we just see the need of this for our customers, and we want to address that. Cons are, well, there are limitations, and it is, from our perspective, going to take longer time to implement. When we go with fork, it is definitely, for the pros, it's easier for us to adopt whatever has been already contributed. You see in the list, starting with 2016, the first contributions. It makes sense to make use of them. Although, when they come in, they also come with potential limitations that are out there. And there are extra porting efforts, definitely. And whenever some user or customer wants to adopt to this fork, we've heard about data gravity. Definitely this is going to be a PostgreSQL compliant database, but it still requires some sort of migration. That's tougher than just implementing or adding an extension to your deployment.
You know, a really good example of this. They originally were forked, but I remember talking with some guys a couple years back, and they had problems, and it had to do with business reasons. They kept getting exchanged from one company to the next, different directions. They found out that this business of having a gated version of Postgres was really hurting them in terms of development time. So they rewrote the entire thing to make it use the extension concept.
Okay.
Because then they could keep up to date with the advances in Postgres.
And to be honest, I may be leaning towards one of the solutions, and you may see that as well with the benefits or cons. But what I want to know, what I would like to know, is whether, like, still with this not that big of a crowd, what do you guys feel? Like, what would be what you would expect, what you would find better? Would you prefer us going with extension or with a fork? So anybody for extension? Yeah.
Let me preface that with a little commentary on past conversations on the rail lists.
Yeah.
You mentioned BG16 load balancing, okay? Yeah. I remember in the early 2000s, there were conversations about enhancing Postgres, and a lot of people, some of them in core, shot it down. They wanted a virgin version of Postgres. The argument was, let the market decide what was going to be used. And Sony was one of the products that ended up that way. And because Sony succeeded, code changes were made incorporating replication internally. But load balancing like that, it's taken almost 20 years to bring.
That's true.
So, making a big circle about this, there's something to be said for an extension concept because we can take advantage. Or when the system is mature enough,
One of the things that I believe that PostgreSQL community doesn't look at, and me as coming from outside of Postgres, but I have Oracle past, so ashamed of that, but let's say that out loud, is the fact that, well, extensions allow for extensibility. Though reading up on the testimonies from young users, they find it complicated to maintain versioning between upgrades. Obviously, Percona distribution solves this to some degree, but this kind of prioritizing extensions over adding to the core is not necessarily the best, not for the community, but for the community growth to the new users who do not necessarily understand the complexity of managing all the extensions. And these are the day two operations that Peter mentioned, and this is the usability of the day two operations for the new users. So as again, Percona addresses that with the distribution, where we make sure that this works. But this isn't. We do not require that somebody uses Percona distribution with an extension. They can use it with whatever combination, and in theory, running into issues. So yeah, but we have decided, let's say, that fork here, at least in this crowd, has a better taste, let's say, or better sound. So. Let's have a typical roadmap slide, at least, to make sure that this looks, at least in a bit, like a typical roadmap presentation. So, as I've already mentioned, we are working hardly on hardening the operator. The product manager for operators is Sergey, who provided me with information on details of what's coming for the operator, which is going to be mentioned later on. We are strongly focusing on data at rest encryption, and we are looking at the ease of use. So this is the focus right now. What we want to expand onto is we are constantly looking for new extensions to support. So one of those extensions is most likely going to be Citus, so to allow us to address scalability better with sharding. We also want to take next steps to making Kubernetes day two operations easier. Look for how can we make tuning and problem analysis easier to use. And actually, what can we do for ease of use at all? Later on, performance, more investment into security, some investment into multi-cloud and being able to help customers who want to migrate out of Oracle, which is a trend we are seeing, and definitely a Postgres as a service is something we would want to introduce to the market as well. Looking at these, what is missing? Well, the question has two flavors. I will allow myself to explain the first flavor and then potentially give the voice to you. So the first flavor for me is the thing that is missing is what I need. So again, egocentric here, but I am missing information on open source software, how people use that. So there is a strong resistance of sharing information. How do we use it? Coming from enterprise software, I've seen sharing of configuration, sanitized configuration, a normal thing. Because a company needs to understand whether their product is actually properly used, and if not, adapt to how users use it. If I will base on anecdotal information out of a single conversation with each customer, this is not data strong enough for me to make decisions very often. So we are missing this information. We are going to be looking into the ways of potentially getting information from our users and customers on how they use software. I believe this is something that out there needs to be making its way to open source so that we understand better how people use the software we provide to them. This is the one way that they can potentially contribute. I don't want to say repay, but contribute without having to code at all. So this is, in my opinion, responsibility of every open source user. You take something for free, so you hopefully help others make it better with the data you share. I don't know how to do it yet in a way that will not agitate people and push them back from the solutions we provide. I don't believe we can provide good solutions without having this, or provide them as fast without having this. So this is a problem I'm hoping that we will take steps in solving. So are there any things that you guys are missing you'd want us to focus on? that are not here. I see Bruce raising a hand.
I'm curious if you're going to continue with the Percona Kubernetes operator, you're looking at the cloud native operator.
Right now, our operator is based on Crunchy.
Okay.
We have at first based, I think, on Crunchy version 2 and now on Crunchy version 5. And this new one, we are certainly happy with already. So we want to invest more into this operator in this shape. That being said, out of the conversations on conferences, I see such a big confusion of users. They come to us and like the question, which operator should I use? There's so many out there. Like, I love the investment that the data on Kubernetes and the cloud native are doing in the structured benefits and features of every operator. Having a YAML description of every version of an operator that's automatically and hopefully going to be parsed and presented will allow for a non-stale comparison of all operators every single moment of like you want to have it. This would be great. Like I would love that because I'm struggling with questions which operator is better because they change so quickly. So the moment I look at it, I don't see that other page and I'm already like my knowledge is stale. But answering your question right now, we are not looking at other operators. We're looking at expanding ours and we are definitely going to invest a lot of that in that basically as our goal, which we do not hide looking at this slide, is hosted Postgres services. And these are going to be based on Kubernetes. And we want an operator, we at least are one of the major contributors. Though, that being said, we see a trend that most likely is going to happen of more integration of operators into a bigger one that serves more purposes. And it makes more sense. It makes sense for everybody, although there are companies that don't want to participate in that. So future will show.
I think we're still at the point where we have new technology and people are just, it's like anything else that we've seen in the past for other initiatives. There's going to be a rationalization, there's going to be a standardization, but I would say the leading argument that we have to have our own operator is that there is a level of comfort by the clients. I can tell you that by first person.
Of course, there is a level of comfort, but I would argue that this level of comfort is maintained if we are a major contributor to an existing one. So,
what I'm saying is that they are cognizant of the variety.
yes.
And they don't lack that.
Yes, of course, and I definitely do not argue that. So, is anybody here running their workloads on Kubernetes already? I don't see many raised hands, but we see that based on the already quoted data on Kubernetes report that actually operators are the way to run on Kubernetes, and we also see looking at the facts that most of the companies are already looking at companies using Kubernetes are looking at stateful workloads on Kubernetes. Although, again, looping back to Peter's presentation, day 2 operations are still a significant challenge. They were, actually with our version 1, upgrades were a big challenge. We are going to address that with operator version 2 already, helping not only with minor version upgrades, but also with major ones later on. So, Percona operator for PostgreSQL roadmap coming straight from Sergey. Hi, Sergey. So we are now working on GAing the operator, although in Q3 we will work on high availability best practices and topologies and OpenShift certification. Going further to expand onto new extensions, being PostgreSQL, which we already include in Q3 support, but in Q4 in Kubernetes hopefully and operators, and scaling out to Citus hopefully as well. Going to 2024, our hope is to address automatic scaling in multi-cloud to have more simplicity and work on performance control as well. So we are at the top of the presentation. And are there any more questions from the crowd? Okay, I see that there are no questions. So are there any pains in your PostgreSQL usage, that, in your experience, that you feel that we did not, or I did not touch upon at all during the presentation? Are there any pains you would want us to address in the distribution or other software we offer? So for example, on one of the previous slides, you could see Percona Toolkit, which is very prominently used for MySQL. But yet, we do not see much usage for PostgreSQL, and we know that it is lacking. Although we do not also see a push for expansion so there is no investment. So.
Cisco was saying, I use some of the toolkit on my Postgres, but he says not all the tools are there. He was asking that last time.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a conversation I will gladly have. This is the thing coming to Percona. Having discovered we have Percona Toolkit used mostly for one database, although it has tools for 3 databases. This is again coming back to my question, like to my problem. I don't know whether the users are using something or in what scope they are using. Where are they finding issues unless I speak to them? So yeah.
When you say Percona Toolkit, do you mean like the PMM and the other tools?
No. There's actually a Percona software called Percona Toolkit.
And what does it do?
It's a set of tools for multiple areas, starting with I think log.
Offline schema change,
Yeah.
log checking, all sorts of little performance scripts.
I see, okay. Yeah, I've never heard of demand for that
Yeah.
in this world, which I guess explains why you're not getting uptake on it.
Oh. I don't see much investment in PostgreSQL there as well because of this lack of interest. At the same time, I would want to understand whether there are needs that are not addressed and Percona Toolkit could address them, whether it makes sense.
I think a huge issue that I'm still struggling with, I mean, if I look at the database as a core, and the community does really good at the database, and that whole satellite of stuff, which EDB focuses on,
Yeah.
Percona focuses on, Crunchy focus on, that's a great model where you have companies that are focusing on that waste model service to interface to the users. What we've seen over the years is things like backup with PG backrest and Percona for high availability. Over time, open source has filled in some of these missing pieces. But the real area that we haven't filled in is monitoring and advising. And I don't know how PMN is classed against something like Oracle Enterprise Manager or Postgres Enterprise Manager or whatever, or Quest's Fogway. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the one piece that when I look at the landscape, I understand TDE. When I look at the full landscape, that one monitoring piece.
Yeah.
We expect people to be experts in Postgres. We expect them to sit at the command line, right? We expect them to know what they're doing. And the majority of people who are new coming in haven't come to PostgreSQL. They are deploying thousands of servers. They don't have time to learn that. Percona, in a lot of ways, is in an ideal position because it is multi-database product, which I've heard people ask. But that's kind of the area that I always think.
So PMM already addresses, allows for PostgreSQL monitoring. I agree that it's not as easy for a beginning user. So I know a lot of APM tools. I used to be for 6 years a Dynatrace product manager for multiple areas. So, and the strongest push in enterprise management software is for ease of use, for ease of the adoption. The easier something is, the easier the value out there, the stickier the product as well, obviously, but the bigger benefit for the users. So here the ease of use isn't on par with enterprise software yet. And this is, again, we have seen that in history. But even Dynatrace invests in open standards right now, because this is the future. In the beginning, the differentiator was the agent and the way it collects data. Right now we have OpenTel. Open telemetry is a game changer. Very soon, the value is not going to be in getting the data. It already isn't. It's in processing the data. Yeah. I am waiting for an open standard of AI that handles that data in a way that the differentiation between APMs is to the, let's say, the benefits, the value that AI can present. Because you don't want Alexa and ask, okay, what's the problem with my database? No, you want to be shown, this is the problem, these are the implications, this is how you fix it.
The other missing piece is there's currently no open API that will allow you to look at all your clusters together.
Yeah.
There's no communication between them. There's no standard SMTP, SMNP kind of a system where you can basically point at a bunch of servers and say, give me all the Postgres versions, give me where they are.
NOC. You want a NOC dashboard.
Every tool has to do it differently.
So.
That would be a great thing for Percona to do an open source.
So having two positions right now in Percona, I'm also a product manager for Mongo. We have invested a lot of time into working on a first version of a NOC sort of dashboard for PMM for Mongo, and this is most likely going to be repeated in some way for PostgreSQL, hopefully as well. So I don't want to see the same investment in both databases at the same time. Let's make mistakes only in one at first and learn on them and just iterate to the other. But this, I see that as something needed from customers. Whenever I speak to, and I hear number of clusters going above 3, let's say, you want to see them all, and you don't want that they work properly. You want to see that they don't work properly and an inventory of all the versions. This is what you're interested in. Like I don't need to be patted on the shoulder. It works right.
We did have an open source tool that did that, and all the vendors could tie into.
Yeah.
Instead of everyone having to create their own.
This was the idea originating behind PMM, as I understand it. So hopefully it is going to happen, because as I know, DBAs, they are not very much inclined to start using those single pane of glass sort of Datadogs or Dynatraces or even Splunks out there. They prefer to have, like, in my head, it has always been two arguments. First of all, I need something specialized for me, and second of all, I don't want to only see. Please let me fix this the moment I see it. So they want actually tooling that actually allows them to do something about it. You can see that very well in Oracle Enterprise Manager. That's what they did. Not only show, but immediately take action. And this, this is what the difference is. I'm sorry, I saw your hand raised.
When people start a new database, we try to work things. But our thing to do is have existing database and try to transfer them between servers. That's a fixed situation. And if I see Percona got some tool to help easily transfer database from one SQL.
So basically, migration help. So.
That'll be a great help for people who have that existing.
And I think this is most likely going to be an investment area as soon as we have database as a service, because and the way we address this may be elastic, allowing to do it as well on-prem, potentially, hopefully. I don't know, like I'm just imagining things right now. But definitely something we may think about right now. We do have services that help with that. So this is like being a company that produces open source software. We also have to live, and we make money on our services, being support, managed services, and professional consulting. And we do have experts in migrations, both across infrastructure and across different database flavors. And as Bruce mentioned, we are supporting multiple database technologies. But the interesting, like for me, the differentiator we have is we do not make money on licensing of our software. So we really don't have any benefit in pushing our software to somebody saying, oh, you use our distribution. Like, no, This is the difference. We make money on actually helping somebody achieve the best results, because with this we show our value and justify the spending potentially on us. So this is the very organic growth open source model that allows me to sleep better at night. All right. So last but not least, Joe wasn't able to join us today, but I took liberty of putting his face out there. So I believe there is a big misconception about contribution. People see contribution as it has to be code, and I disagree. There's so much more that you can contribute. Your feedback is what you can contribute. When we present a tech preview, if you tell us, Jan, this is BS, this does not work the way it should be, this is the best you can do. Like, we need that. We need your contribution this way. And community anywhere needs that. PostgreSQL needs that as well. Making this feedback easier for people who are not yet feeling part of community is crucial for us to grow and to do stuff better than we did. All right, with this, thank you for this presentation, for participating in the presentation, and for your active participation. My name is Jan. Here are my contact details. Please reach out to me or grab me here, like during drinks. I'm very happy to talk more. Thank you.